or indeed have helped you. Now, when I say full English, I wonder what you think. I know what I think right now because I'm really hungry, but actually this has got nothing to do with all the breakfast except the mushroom. Nobody wants the mushroom on a full English breakfast, do they really? I mean, it's a lovely looking thing, but I mean, horrible. I'm talking about something that Jeremy is doing. He's not from our part of the world, but he's in our part of the world. He's 19 years old. He's on the Bristol leg of his challenge, and he's doing it for a very special reason. In fact, two very special reasons. Jeremy is live on the line now. Jeremy, good afternoon to you.
Hi, John. Great to chat.
Yeah, thank you for being on the programme. We'll talk about what you're doing in a bit more detail in just a moment. We were talking about charities and charities that you never would think you'd have to call on, and then they are there to help you just when you need it. Now, you are doing what you are doing for a very special reason, and it relates to your mum, doesn't it? And it relates to your dad as well, which is quite a brutal thing that happened to you in a very short space of time. Let's start with your dad. What happened?
Yeah, so my dad was diagnosed with a brain tumour in late 2017, so a glioblastoma brain tumour, a grade 4, which is essentially a year's death sentence in most cases. And later in 2018, of course, behavioural changes happened. He started acting out. We weren't quite sure what it was, but when the diagnosis came through, I suppose we were just in complete shock. And in September 2018, he sadly passed away of said brain tumour. And yeah, it's the Brain Tumour Charity, which is one of the charities I'm doing this in aid of, is the leading researchers in the UK of brain tumours, and they do such good work supporting families and.
What did they do for you? What did they do for you and your dad and your mum? We'll talk more about your mum in just a moment. But what did they actually do for your dad?
Well, it was mainly education, helping us. It was good having a resource online to know exactly where to go. I think in some cases it's for people. We were lucky in that we were well catered for in our area through the NHS and everything, but some areas obviously aren't so blessed. And yeah, they do good work in supporting the families and making sure all the equipment is there that people can get by. And yeah, they're horrible situations, brain tumours. So they just make sure that people are supported in the best way they can be.
And again, it's sometimes it's about those who are going through with the person who is directly affected by whatever it is, because of course you're there trying to understand, and indeed sometimes Jeremy, you can't understand. Well, the person going through it, they can't understand, but you need to understand.
Definitely. I think it's the Brain Tumour Charity are really helpful in that they understand, they know what it's like, and they can present all the options for you and give you the very best possible solution, I suppose. But sadly, the reason they're going is because there isn't a solution, and they're trying their absolute hardest to find a cure.
And that then, of course, chimes in not just to your dad, Giles, but your mum Claire, who had motor neurons disease.
Yeah, so actually, my dad's diagnosis came after my mum. So before my dad was diagnosed with a brain tumour, my mum that same year, back in April, had been diagnosed with motor neuron disease, which is essentially just this horrific condition that destroys your muscles and slowly your whole body starts to shut down. So with her, she was retraining to be a masseuse, and she was about to do her massage exam, and she just couldn't. We thought it was a trapped nerve in her left arm. She just couldn't move the muscles there. And then slowly, that whole left side of the body started to paralyze. So she couldn't move her arm, and then she struggled with balance, and she had a couple of falls. Words started slurring, and again, the odd behavioural change. And, I mean, by the end, she was unable to turn over in bed, unable to eat or drink, speak, move, pretty much unable to do anything independently. Always had to have someone just making sure that, she wasn't going to choke or anything. It's just absolutely devastating.
And of course, they're now both gone, but you're left. And this chimes into what we were talking about a little bit this morning, is that, sometimes you just have to give back. You have to do something, don't you? You have to do something to say, good God, look what I've been through, but good God, I can help now others who've been through what I've been through.
100%. Like, I think when it first happened, I did put a bit of an armour on, so to speak, try not to get too in touch with my grief and just try and crack on and live the life I normally lived. And that, in the long term, is totally unsustainable. And whilst this year's been really, really tough in terms of not having so much to fill your mind, I took the year out between school and university to catch my breath and perhaps get a bit of travelling done. But this has been such an important year for me to realise that you've got to get in touch with your grief. You can't use it for good. It's just, you may as well find something you can do. And I suppose I'm now in a much more, of course, not a day goes by where I don't wish anything like this happened, but I can use it to potentially raise some money for both for the Motor Neurone Disease Association, the Brain Tumour Charity, and also to, I suppose, make terminal illness and grief less of a taboo.
And Jeremy, eat breakfast.
Yes, well, that is the best part of the challenge.
I tell you what, let's hear from James and sit down. We've heard why. We're going to hear the how, because it does involve breakfast and cycling, but not necessarily at the same time. Jeremy, who is on his, and I think I've got this right, Tour de Full English, is that right?
That is correct. So we're currently cycling around Britain. We're on the Tour de Full English, looking for the best British breakfast that Britain has on offer. So we started off down in Kent, which is where I'm from, came along the south coast, down into the Isle of Wight, and then back into the New Forest, and now I've done gone northwest. I'm up in Bristol as we speak. I'm actually just by the Bristol Bears training ground by the Clifton Rugby Club.
Okay. Well, I'll tell you what, let's pause for James, because I want to hear what the breakfasts are like. Because let's be honest, there are two meals, when you're in a hotel, there are two meals you really look forward to. The evening meal, because someone does all the work for you. And you also look forward to a full English breakfast, because, let's be honest, doing that at home is a chore. Having it presented to you in a hotel is a delight. We're going to find out which is the best breakfast, and we'll find out about your cycling tour as well. More from Jeremy after James. After the news at 1, of course, knowledge is power. Your question, your answer. Yesterday we dealt with wolf whistling, which was actually about wolves and warnings. Shepherds telling their dogs about wolves so they could gather the sheep to protect them against wolves. And we learned about spiders. Spiders don't want to live in your home. And when you see the big, gangly spiders in your home, they are. More answers after the news at 1 o'clock today. Your question, your answer. Let's get back to our guest now. Jeremy Daubeny, who is in Bristol on the leg of his challenge. It is the Tour de Full English. We heard from Jeremy the very real and raw reason why you're doing this. And of course, it was the loss of your father, Giles, your mum, Claire. And you were very honest, Jeremy, a moment ago about your grief and about taking time out to cope with it, understand it, get your head around it. How is the cycling? I know you're not physically doing it, but you're doing it where you arrive. How is what you're doing, the Tour de Full English, helping you with that grief?
I'd say I'm doing things like this, so I'm always talking about my parents at the moment and often chatting about them. And of course, exercise is brilliant for just keeping in a good headspace. So I think it's quite a healthy way. It's quite a freeing life, actually. Just your life aim is essentially to go from A to B and eat a breakfast along the way. But also, it's been really good chatting and, making sure my parents live on in memory.
And this is about raising money also for the MND Association, for motor neurons, of course, MND Association, and the Brain Tumour Charity that you spoke very eloquently about just a little bit earlier, which relates to the help and support the family got when your father Giles was diagnosed with his tumour. And from your point of view, doing the cycling, doing the tour, raising money, what does that do for you?
I think it is using an upsetting set of circumstances for good, and it's a challenge that I'm enjoying. It's a challenge that it's tough, and there have been some low moments and some high moments, but ultimately it's raising money that no one should have to suffer like my parents. It was just horrible, and they probably wouldn't be they'd be slightly worried for my safety cycling front, but they'd be very happy for me trying to find Britain's best breakfast. And it is a challenge that I know they'd be really proud of, and it's something just keeping them living on a memory and raising money for 2 charities that are trying to make sure no one has to suffer like they do ever again.
And you are in Bristol. It's the Bristol leg of this 7-week challenge. You mentioned where you've been so far, starting in Kent and then going through the north and what have you. Firstly, describe to me, we'll talk about the cycling in a little bit, but I'm more interested in the breakfast, frankly. Tell me what for you, 19 years old, fit. You've got to be fit because obviously you're doing the cycling challenge. What is the best breakfast? What would you expect to see on your plate?
No, currently we're sort of sticking to full Englishes as we speak. So I'm not quite good board of them yet, but I'm getting that way. So you've got to keep the tradition. So I want to see all the components. I'll probably forget one here, but it's beans, hash browns, mush. I saw you weren't a big fan of mushrooms, I heard, but I beg to differ on that front. Black pudding, sausages, bacon, and the like. So you've got to have all the components, but I also want to see a bit of chef's touch there. So maybe, a homemade bean, a fancy egg, something just to give it a little bit special. But of course, when you get special, you can sacrifice on portion sizes, and we do not want to see that. Yeah,
that's a very good point, because sometimes you get a full plate and then you look at it and think, is that it?
Yeah.
Hang on. All right, I appreciate that the fried bread doesn't have crusts on it, but come on. And here's a contentious question, Jeremy, about the full English breakfast. Should it have tinned tomatoes on it?
You see, I've not had one yet. I much prefer a sort of a grilled tomato on the side. I think that is how it should be done. But you never know. I'm here for education. I'm here to be educated as well.
My view, not the view of the BBC, of course, and we don't want another inquiry over it, but it is that the tinned tomato has no place on the Great British Breakfast. That's just to say, just my own personal views, not the views of the BBC. Where's the best one you've had so far?
So far, the leader of the league table is Cafe 72 down in Littlehampton, down in Sussex. So, yeah, we got a postal breakfast leading at the moment, but I've not been blown away by anything yet. Nothing's ticked all the boxes, so I'm excited to continue to try them.
Well, and this is the byproduct, and of course then you cycle and burn off the full calorific value of a full English breakfast as well, and it is for an extraordinary good cause, and I'm very grateful because you're 19, you've gone through what you've gone through, you've talked about what you've talked about. Someone somewhere would have heard what you said, and that will have helped them. And I mean that. I know, but I know how this works. So it's so important that we do talk about this, not hide it, Jeremy. And I know that that's easy to say. It's a lot harder to do. If people want to support you on your tour, they can. What's the address?
So if you want to donate and hear more about the story, that is virginmoneygiving.com/Tour de Full English. So Tour de Full English is like Tour de France. Tour de Full English, FULLENGLISH. That's virginmoneygiving.com/Tour de Full English. And then social media-wise, you can follow me on Instagram and Facebook at Tour de Full English, all one word.
Tour de Full English, like Tour de France, but actually much better because it's about a full English breakfast. It is in my world. Tour de Full English. Jeremy, good luck with it. Good luck with the remaining part of your Tour de Full English. Jeremy Dorbury, thank you very much indeed for joining me this afternoon.
Thanks a million, John. Take care.
You too.
BBC Radio Bristol.
She is one of the real gems at the heart of Bristol's music scene.
Claire Kavanagh.
Welcome to the show, Lady Nate. Hi, how you doing?